if people can handle the freedom of democracy.
When did I say that?
Some years ago.
No. Be very careful when you quote me, because I'm very careful how I phrase myself, because it's part of my legal training.
But so you don't agree with that?
No, just a moment. You give me my quote and the context in which it was placed. Don't just pluck out a few words and toss it at me unexpectedly in an interview and expect me to crumble.
No, I'm expecting you to answer it.
No, why should I answer something which I may never have uttered? The number of things I've said, even if I were a data bank, I wouldn't be able to retrieve it.
All the criticism that Singapore has had, what effect does that have on you?
Well,
do you mind it?
It's part of life. I read it. Sometimes I take note of it. I improve. Look at Singapore. Would anybody be interested in Singapore if it were a failure?
What about PAP? What about the opposition party? They're not particularly happy with it. Singapore, they call it.
They get a chance every 4 to 5 years. They get a chance every meeting of Parliament. The cameras are there. Who's the bore? If there was such a marvelous proposition, I would have been tossed out years ago. It's one of the few countries where people have the right to toss a government out, and they have not done so. I think, despite all that the West have said, nobody has said that we've been stuffing the ballot papers in. Not even our meanest enemies.
They have criticized the human rights record, the number of executions, for instance, haven't they?
They may believe that if you're kind to drug traffickers, you get a better society. In America, they're changing their minds and they're sending people back to death row. In Singapore, before you land, the air hostess or the steward will announce that there are very heavy penalties if you're found with more than a stated number of grams of certain prohibited drugs. And if you still come in with a few kilos of them, which will destroy hundreds, thousands of families, one death is too kind, because you are killing that family every day for years and years and years, that a daughter or a son is an addict.
But the per capita rate of executions in Singapore is much higher than in the United States.
Have you worked it out?
According to Amnesty International.
Have they worked it out
Apparently.
accurately? Per capita of what? Per capita of drug traffickers or per capita of population of Singapore? I am executing foreign drug traffickers. Let me tell you, the people who have been executed. Nigerians, because Nigerians are the most unlikely of drug traffickers in this Asian society. Dutch women traveling with African men. Dutchmen traveling with Chinese women. How do you calculate per capita? Per capita of Dutchmen entering Singapore, or per capita of Singaporeans as against Dutchmen? What's Amnesty talking about? Do they know what's happening? Do they ask themselves, what would happen if we send them all to prison for 5, 10 years, and we'll have to make more prisons because there'll be such an endless stream of them. And this is, despite the death penalty, the rewards are so enormous that people are willing to risk it. And why not?
Would you say that over the 31 years as you were Prime Minister that you were a ruthless man?
Do I look to you a ruthless man? Here I am being pilloried, excoriated,
by who?
Abused by you.
Merely asked questions, I thought.
No, but every one of them is barbed and loaded, darts with a bit of arsenic in it.
I'd like to think that you were given a chance to answer any question that was put to you, no?
Oh, that's what I'm offering myself for, isn't it? But if I were a ruthless man, I would get you into a corner and say, now, let me ask you some questions. Why do you start with the assumption that your interviewee is always dumb and that you are smarter than him? Why do you assume that Asians are somehow unable to understand Western ways of life and that they would be so much better if they would become more like the West?
Do you think that's the attitude of people, Westerners, that you talk to?
Western interviewers, yes. But not all Westerners, because I've got many Western friends who know me very well, and we cease to look at each other as Easterners or Westerners. But when I meet an interviewer in a formal setting such as this, that's the assumption.
Lee Kuan Yew, what does the future hold for you? What ambitions do you have?
At 74, I don't talk anymore of ambitions. I've either done what I could have done, or I'm hardly likely to do it now. What I have done, I'm not ashamed of. What do I expect to do with myself for the rest of time? Have pleasant conversations with people like you.